Okay, my camera settings are all fixed. My hair looks good. What is this, 5th time's a charm? Okay, hey guys, so long time no talk. I have gained quite a few new subscribers, so I thought let's do a brief introduction. So hi, my name is Sarah. I am a 19-year-old legally blind equestrian from South Florida, and I own a 7-year-old quarter horse named Kiss, who I bought 2 months ago. So I asked you guys a couple days ago on the community tab what video I should film, and a lot of you voted for how the horse industry treats disabled equestrians. So this video is going to be a lengthy one, so grab a cup of tea, hot chocolate, whatever floats your boat, and get comfy. Please keep in mind, these are all my experiences, and no two equestrians' experiences are the same. So this is just going to be me telling you guys my experience and my point of view on how disabled equestrians are treated in the horse industry. But anyways, let's get started. Okay, so I'm going to be sharing 3 experiences. One of them is like a big story, and I am going to be kind of vague and not going to go into much detail because one, that was a really dark time in my life and I kind of blocked a lot of stuff out, and 2, we did have to open a lawsuit. Even though I didn't sign an NDA, I just still want to be careful please keep that in mind. And then the other 2 experiences I'm going to be talking about are kind of just like little side stories. So a barn I was riding at the beginning of my equestrian journey. It took me quite a few months to become a working student. You know, I felt confident. So at this barn, the working student position entailed just tacking up, bringing horses up to their lesson, and after their lesson, bringing them back down, untacking them, and putting them back in their stall. So pretty easy, right? And I was probably riding for about 5 months when I became a working student, but before I became a working student, I felt very confident in what I was doing. They just kept telling me I need to shadow more, and they had something called a working student training class. So they kept saying I had to take more of those and shadow more. And even though I was confident, and I spoke to a couple other working students, and during this time I'm like, was this your experience? They're like, no. And they all told me they had the same experience as one another, and the experience I was having was different from theirs. So I told my mom this, how I was feeling, and kind of what I just had a feeling. And she was like, oh, don't worry about it. And she kind of like played it off. I'm like, okay, I'm just being paranoid. Turns out I wasn't. So I was a working student from October to January, and January and February, this is when I lived up north. This is when the winters were the most brutal, and let me tell you, working 6 hours in the freezing cold was not a pleasant experience. So I don't work, I think I do like a shift or 2 in January, and then like February I don't work. But I didn't get the schedule for February, even though I was on the mailing list. I didn't get the email for February schedule. I didn't get the email for March. And I texted the lady that was in charge, the barn manager, who's in charge of the working student program. I texted her, I'm like, hey, did you send out the March schedule? No response. Hey, can I work in April with so-and-so? No response. I just asked her a straight up question. I'm like, hey, can I work these dates in April? No response. Finally, she pretty much got annoyed with me and called my mom. And I will never forget this day. I was out with my dad. We were in the Walgreens drive-thru picking up a prescription, and I called my mom. And she tells me something, and then she tells me something else. She's like, oh, so-and-so called. I'm like, oh, what'd she say? We'll talk about this when we get home. Immediately, I knew it was not something good. So I get home. My mom tells me that I was no longer able to be a working student. And this woman could not give a straight answer. Oh, I'm too slow. Because, you know, you had to tack up multiple horses within like a 30-minute time span. So you had to be quick and efficient. Oh, and then she said something that's like, oh, it's because of her vision. And then immediately the woman realized what she had said. Like, she kind of just kept talking in circles. My mom tried to speak to the office lady, the office manager, who's different from the barn manager, and my trainer, who we both absolutely loved them. My mom spoke to both of them, trying to like resolve the situation. They kind of spoke to the barn manager and the barn owner, and the barn owner and the barn manager did not want any part of trying to resolve the situation. So about 2 weeks passed. My lesson package was up. My mom called the barn and spoke to the office lady, who we love, and told her we were canceling out the rest of my lessons. And she was very kind. She did not blame us one bit at all. And my mom's like, we're done. We can't do this anymore. And she understood. She tried to help us, but it wasn't her fault. It was the barn owner and the barn manager. So anyways, later that day, after my mom cancels all my lessons, the barn owner calls her. Funny enough, because through this time, we tried to resolve it. The barn owner and the barn manager didn't have enough guts to call my mom personally. So, just want to keep that in mind. Barn owner, of course, calls my mom up after we cancel all our lessons and tries to resolve things. Like, no. What we're not doing. Like, she tried to fix things, but it was too late. The barn owner brought up the fact, like, I know we sometimes as parents, we want our kids to do things that they can't do. You know, riding isn't for everyone. Ma'am, you just broke federal law, and that's your way of trying to fix things? Yeah, no. Like a couple days after, I had a eye doctor's appointment with one of my specialists. This appointment was planned for like 2 years. You know, my mom specifically asked my eye doctor, is her sight ever going to get worse? And he said not at this time. And what I didn't know at this time, my trainer had asked my mom, because the barn owner asked him if my sight was ever going to get worse. And my mom asked the doctor for a note saying that, because she knew what our next steps were. That day, before the doctor's appointment, my mom had spoken to a guy at Civil Rights, and we began the process of opening up a case. When someone's served, they have a period of time where I think they fill out paperwork or whatever to fill in their side of the story, pretty much. And I want to say the barn owner had 2 weeks to do that. And I want to say the last day when the paperwork was between the 2 weeks, I removed everyone that followed me from that barn off my Instagram, made my account private, and unfollowed everybody except for a few. And the day that the barn owner had to get in her paperwork or whatever, her information, I get a message from the barn owner's daughter saying like, oh, why did you remove me off Instagram and make your account private? I thought we were friends, blah, 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 blah. No, honey, we were not friends. And, you know, this girl, she was a dumb teenager, you know. She was like saying, if it's about what my mom did, it was for your safety, blah, 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 blah. You know, my mom's on the phone with the guy, our coordinator from Civil Rights, who I loved him. He was such a nice guy, and he even knew what they were doing. You know, the next few weeks after I left the barn, and, you know, word probably got out that someone was filing a civil suit against them, I began to be harassed by riders and trainers. It was very fun. I had to go off social media for quite a bit after this because I'm like, I can't do this. You know, I'm not gonna go into the specifics of the case for obvious reasons. Even though I didn't sign an NDA, I just want to be very careful with what I say. This case was open for about 9-10 months, and unfortunately we did lose. The trainers were able to get their stories straight enough where they didn't do anything wrong. Our civil rights coordinator knew they did what they did. We just could not prove it because we did not have it in writing. You know, they didn't even want to mediate. We didn't even get to go to court. We didn't get a settlement, and which is really effed up because for what that barn put me through, I think I deserve something. Because that barn sent me into a really dark place, and it's the least they could do because of how much pain they caused me. You know, when you tell somebody they can't work, but oh, we'll still take your money, it just felt like a kick in the gut. The rug was pulled out from underneath me and I was kicked in the teeth all at once. It just was not cool, and I would absolutely love to share the name of the barn fully, but I don't feel like it coming back to bite me. I know one day karma's gonna get to them. I just hope some innocent teenager or kid is not gonna have to pay the consequences like I did. Okay, so I guess let's go on to another. I don't even know if you could call this video cheerful. It's not gonna be cheerful. I have 2 more experiences and they're very short. When I first moved to Florida, I was with a trainer briefly. Unfortunately, I had some family circumstances change, so I had to move to a trainer that was closer to my house and a little more affordable. And I was at this barn for probably about 4 months. The shortest time I was ever at a barn. For a bunch of different reasons, but 2 of the main reasons I'm going to talk about. When I came to this barn, I didn't ride for about like 6 weeks, and that's because I had some family circumstances happen, and I was just out of shape. My first lesson, I told her I was coursing like 2.326 because that's what I was doing that summer at riding camp. And even after I got back into shape with riding, I was still jumping cross rails and I was doing lines. That was it. I was rarely ever doing courses. And, you know, finally one lesson, I just kind of broke down because I was frustrated. And this woman says to me, oh, the reason the jumps are so small is because I want to make sure you can see everything. Well, ma'am, I kind of already proved that to you that I can. And I'm far more capable of doing just straight up lines. Like, it's trainers like that even after riders prove to you that they are capable of doing much more, you still keep them, you still keep them doing stuff they are far beyond. Like, I understand you might be concerned of me getting hurt, but I already signed a liability waiver. And this woman was holding me back so much. My dad, who doesn't even ride and knows nothing about horses, came to my lesson, and even he said he thought she was holding me back. It's bad when your parents think a trainer's holding you back. This incident happened at the same barn. I had a girl tell me the reason she was better than me was because she could see. I have never wanted to smack someone so much in my life. Like, excuse you? No, honey. You're not better than me because you can see. Mommy and Daddy pay for everything for you. I think one of the most frustrating things about the sport is that it's a very money-rich sport. So if you don't have money, you're nothing. But having a disability on top of that and not having the money makes the sport 10 times worse. And it's so frustrating because it's like, no matter how hard you prove to a trainer that you are capable of doing something, you're not going to be able to do it. And I feel like ever since I came to Florida, I've been a barn hopper. In reality, I've only been to 3 barns in 2 years. That's because it's been so hard to find a trainer that actually takes me seriously and isn't ungodly scared of me getting hurt. Like, I signed a liability waiver for a reason. That's a thing. Did you forget I signed that? If I get hurt, I can't sue you, disability or not. Alrighty guys, I'd say that's the end of this video. If you guys have any more video ideas, let me know, because I've always said this, I keep saying this, I really want to post more on here, not just horse content, because I'm not doing much with Kiss right now besides walk, trot, canter work, because he's still green, so it's kind of hard to make fun videos with him. But anyways, that is it for today's video, guys. I really hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to subscribe. Hope you guys stay safe and healthy.